I played 4 survival-like games and I'm going to be ranking them all from worst to best. We've all played survival Minecraft at least once. I mean, it's the most sold game of all time, so if you haven't, have you actually touched grass? But I wanted to change things up a bit, as I'm wanting something a little bit more than the funny block game can provide. And I hear you all screaming, then why don't you just mod the game? Well, there's 2 reasons. One, I already have a modded playthrough and I don't want to mess it up. And the other reason, well, I'm just lazy. Welcome to the first episode of Game Bracket, a show where I take 4 games of similar genre and find out which one is worthy enough to take home the gold. We have 4 very strong contestants today, each bringing something to fear to the ring. However, to make sure we stay true to form, the games I will be playing will have to stick to a set of rules, keeping them closely relatable to the survival genre. 1. They must have crafting. 2. A true survival mode where the player must farm resources and is at risk of death. 3. Just for fun, let's make sure they're all indie games. And 4. One defining trait that separates it from Minecraft. Basically the bar of survival games these days. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see the analytics of our first contestant. Our first contestant is Satisfactory. This game piqued my interest in its early days and has been collecting dust in my Steam library for quite some time now. Satisfactory is an early access indie title that has only gotten bigger with every update. You are a space traveling engineer tasked to go to distant planets to gather resources by constructing large factories in an attempt to complete the space elevator. I was blown away on how quickly I got invested with this game. For starters, you have 4 types of maps to choose from, each varying in difficulty, based on how hard resources are to find and how friendly the environment is to the player with the creatures that live there. I went with the desert map, as it is friendly to first-time players, but offers slightly more challenge than the true beginner's map. All I have to do now is name my save file. That'll do. I'll do it. After I deconstructed my space pod, I was guided step by step on how to found my home base, track down mineral deposits to gather resources, and then construct machines to improve my efficiency. Which leads me to the pacing. By modern standards, it is incredible. Not once did I feel like I was unlocking things too fast or slow, or was overwhelmed by the inflow of new machines. And it's thanks to how the game lets you progress. The terminal on your main hub allows you to select milestones. These milestones are themed around parts and machines that are based around certain ways of progression, like mining, transportation, energy, base building, and so on. When you first start, you can unlock these milestones quickly, as they all act similar to one another. But as you level up your hub, the milestones are then separated by short time limits, giving the player time to learn and experiment with the new tools they've unlocked. And for the most part, they all work pretty simply. The most complex thing I ran into was learning how to design my power grid. If too many machines are wired to the same generator, the fuse will blow, causing a massive outage. But it's really cool to see how you start out with so little, only to eventually grow your factory to something very organized, or so unbelievably scuffed you had no idea how you got it to work, but it works anyway, so you just roll with it. As for its survival mechanics, they're not too relevant in the main scheme of things. They are there, but only as a reminder rather than a core focus. Like how sometimes you remember there's fall damage, and you need to eat fruit to regain your health. Or when you're exploring for new resource deposits, you'll find an aggressive animal, a relic sitting out in the middle of a field, or a crash site from past factory builders. Even if you die, all your stuff is placed in a crate and highlighted on your compass to go find after you respawn. The main focus is definitely the factories, and honestly, it's better this way, as more advanced survival mechanics like hunger or temperature would only act as minor inconveniences that slow the player's progression from an already near-perfect system, pulling away from the game's main appeal. Building a capitalist's wet dream. But the survival mechanics are so bare bone, it barely meets the criteria for this episode's rules. When it comes to resource management, it crushes that by a landslide. The crafting is very simple, only requiring a few types of materials per recipe, but in large quantities. And as your factory expands, you'll never feel like you're low on resources, or will be for long, as you'll be stocked with other materials to build more machines to make more of the desired items you need to progress. And if you have a setup making one item that you feel you have more than enough of, you can reprogram the machines to make something else. And the UI is so well designed that it's not intimidating to reprogram these machines to what you want. The only complications are your layouts, experimentation, and optimization, which you will fix at your own pace the more you play. Our second contestant is Valhiem, a game I've heard come up in casual conversation with my friends, and they all seem to have a good opinion of the title, so I gave in to curiosity to give it a try for myself. Looking at it from a window shopper's perspective, it was hitting all my interests. A game built around Norse mythology, it has multiplayer, it involves killing the spirits of the land as your primary objective, followed by what seemed like decent base building and crafting mechanics. Looks like a good time. and then I played it. This game is jank as hell. I'll give it the few positives I have, which for the most part, the game is very pretty. The skybox is gorgeous, the fields and hillsides look lush with life, and when you get structures built, they look decent, and I imagine look truer to form towards Nordic buildings if you keep leveling up your workstation. Your character, however, looks weird. Like a Viking Pillsbury doughboy. What do I even name him? Feel me dong. And now my world. Dong me feel. Despite the game's pretty coat of paint, it's unfortunately bogged down with minor inconveniences everywhere you turn. The part that pissed me off the most was the base building. This has to be the sloppiest structure snapping I have ever experienced in a video game. It is very sensitive when you try to connect one structure to another, as you have to line it up just right, otherwise it'll fall out of alignment or place it directly in front of the already placed structure. Stacking structures on top of one another is just as infuriating, as when you get to a certain height, it becomes near impossible to stack walls, leading you to make a ladder to get up there, and even when you do, it's still a pain in the ass to build for the same reasons as before. My house wasn't too complicated. It's a box with a triangle roof, but goddamn, it took me about 3 hours to build because the building mechanics are such a pain to control. There's even physics involved. If a structure is too far away from any kind of support, it just shatters. However, if you finagle it a bit and just attach it somewhere else, the game changes its mind and it thinks it's fine. In my opinion, this whole physics aspect should just be removed entirely. If I can just assemble it slightly differently and still achieve the same result, then what's the point? Moving on from the real estate crisis, the world doesn't have much to it, at least from what I've seen. The map looks like a respectable size, and occasionally you can find structures, but 9 times out of 10, there's nothing in them, and during the off chance you do find a chest, the goods inside are not worth getting excited over. But I told myself I would at least play up until the first spirit, and see if the game eventually gets better over time. So I grinded up some resources, made myself a workstation, which requires a fully functioning roof to work, by the way. Kind of a lame gatekeep, but fine. Eventually found myself cooking, slaughtering little gremlins, and made myself some slightly stronger weapons. Oh look, a runestone, I wonder what it says. Pause, traveler. You are welcome to the last and most lawless of the 10 worlds. In Valhiem, the air is pure, the water deep and clear, and the forest overflowing with bounty. Here is adventure, joy, and glory for the taking. I see. And just like the disappointment that stone was, the same could be said about my fight with Eikthyr, the deer spirit. He looked cool and his lightning attacks were flashy, but I just kinda ran away and shot at him with a bow till he died. Yeah, that was pretty underwhelming. I think I had my fill. As much as I talk this game down, I have to give it the excuse that it is still in early access and does have the potential to be polished and improve itself over time. And I'll be honest, I can see it becoming much better. You have a great wall to lean on with Norse mythology, and the crafting mechanics weren't too complicated from what I played. So if slight improvements keep being made to the game's world and mechanics, Valhiem could be a very successful game in the future. But as it stands, it was pretty disappointing my first go around, but not disappointing enough to where I won't keep my eye on it. I'll probably pick it up again after a few updates to see if it has improved any. Contestant number 3, Subnautica. This is a game I've had back and forth experiences with in the past. If you're a longtime viewer, this was a game I've live streamed a bunch back in the day. Though it made for a decent stream sesh, I'll be honest, the game didn't really impress me then, so I wasn't really expecting much diving back in. But man, my opinions were put to shame once I gave this title my full attention. Not only is this one of the most unique takes for a survival game I've ever played, it also scared the hell out of me. Let me explain. From the moment you fall from space, Subnautica delivers a feeling of stress. Stranded on an alien planet consisting mostly of ocean, you quite literally dive into the action, exploring the ocean floor for food and supplies. As you create new tools and repair your escape pod, the game opens up even more with an intricate base building system, different types of vehicles to help you explore deeper into the world's ocean, and objectives delivered via radio transmissions from other survivors of the crash. The amount of variety Subnautica presents with its environments is astounding. It consistently held me in awe as I explored the vibrant coral reefs, and shivering in fear when I explored the depths of its trenches and caves. As much as I love the ocean, I also have a very strong fear of the abyss, meaning that if I can't see the bottom, I will freak out. And this game simulated that fear damn near perfectly, as I actually screamed when I saw the Leviathan and the Warper for the first time. A game that can deliver a feeling that surreal to me gets my utmost respect. Problems I have with this game may seem minor, but as you continue to progress, you start to notice it pretty often. My biggest gripe is the inventory system. You are not able to stack items, and some take up more space than others, meaning you will be going back and forth between your base and exploring quite often. Though the items you craft may require little resources to produce, I found myself having to venture out way more than I thought was necessary to create multiple items specifically for base building and vehicle creation, but also had to pass up many valuable resources when I was out exploring. I'm not saying all items need to stack, but I would argue that at least make the essential ores stackable, like titanium, copper, and lead, so I'm not consistently having to go back and forth when I'm trying to build up my base, or have my exploration cut short because it's necessary that I have a supply of these items to craft most objects in the game. My second and last issue, it's kind of a gray area, and it's how you learn to play the game. Subnautica does not hold your hand often, and when it does, it only explains so much. Exploration and reading item descriptions are the best way of figuring out things by yourself, but there were times where I needed to look up a guide on where I could find certain items and how to properly build my base to learn enough to get this video out as quickly as I could. I commend the game for being designed around learning the mechanics by playing the game rather than giving you 50 pages to read. And you could argue that in a real survival situation, you only have yourself to learn how to survive, and for the most part, Subnautica does that quite well. Just maybe an optional beginner's checklist for stupid people like me to help get us running a bit before we're let out into the big scary ocean. But other than that, I was very impressed of my playtime in Subnautica, and I will continue my conquest to explore the ocean and find all that it has to offer. Last but certainly not least, Slime Rancher 2. The original Slime Rancher is an old favorite of mine. It's one of the most relaxing and charming games I've ever played, and it's always my go-to when I just want to unwind. So when I saw that the sequel was coming out during the production of this video, I thought it would make a perfect candidate for Game Bracket, and I couldn't be more correct. Starting up the game for the first time, I was amazed on how stylish the new ranch looked. Compared to the first title, this place is a palace. The same could be said about the new world to explore, as I traversed through open valleys, the caves of an active volcano, and a vibrant coral reef brought to the surface. Everything about Slime Rancher 2 just feels bigger. The map is bigger. The amount of slime breeds is bigger. The lab and amount of unlockables is bigger. As noticeable as the new assets are to Slime Rancher 2, the same can be said about its gameplay and how similar it is to the first title. For the most part, it plays exactly the same, with a few quality of life changes and more player upgrades. You still go around collecting slimes to harvest their plorts to make money, to buy more slime pens and gardens, while also expanding the map and ranch by discovering new pathways via exploration or purchasing new land. The upgrades for the pens and farms are exactly the same, as well as how you care for the slimes. You feed them the food they prefer, being fruits, veggies, or meat, and how you combine them to make hybrid slimes by feeding them other slime plorts to make big slime. The only real threats you encounter is the tar and feral slimes that will bite you if you get close to them. If you're brand new to Slime Rancher, then I can definitely see how this seems very exciting, and I would agree that this is better than the first title, only for the reason of it looks better and there's more to explore when compared to the original. Aside from that, it's the same game. I'm not one to knock developers on building on top of what they already knew was good. I mean, hell, I gave Tai 2 a bunch of crap for being too experimental with its gameplay, causing it to lose sight of what was already good about it. But Slime Rancher 2 feels like it's playing it a bit too safe. The new map is beautiful, and the new breeds of slimes are adorable, but outside of that, I was a little underwhelmed on the game's mechanics when it came to slime care and ranch expansion, which function exactly the same as the first game. The same could be said about the game's threats to survival. The tar and feral slimes also act the same. Man, I'm saying the word same a lot. I wish there was some new ways to optimize your ranch, as well as there being new enemies and hazards to look out for when exploring the map. Fortunately, the game did launch in early access, so there will be more content to come. I did enjoy the time I spent playing Slime Rancher 2, but as it stands currently, it feels like an amazing DLC drop rather than a new game. But I look forward to the game's future, and I will definitely be keeping tabs on it. Now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, it's time to see who will take home the gold in the first episode of Game Bracket. In fourth place, and I'll admit it was pretty obvious, Valhiem. When playing Valhiem, every time I got impressed, I was almost immediately annoyed. For every beautiful piece of land I saw, I was instantly reminded I was playing as a half-baked cookie dough Viking. Every time I unlocked a new crafting recipe, I was met with an inconvenient mechanic, drawing out my playtime for what felt like an unnecessary reason. Why does my crafting table need a roof to function? Is it afraid it's going to catch a cold and infect my axe with the sniffles? Base building was the worst part because of how jank it was. Listen, I know I'm giving this game a bunch of crap, but in the end, I can't say I fully hated it. In fact, I still believe it has potential if the points I criticized got their polish. My friends seem to enjoy this game, and I can see why. Norse mythology is a cool folklore to dive into, and it's clear the devs have a soft spot for it. It just wasn't that fun to me. The bronze medal goes to Slime Rancher 2. As much as I loved exploring this cutesy, slimy world, I just have to reiterate that Slime Rancher 2 just felt too similar to the first game. I still enjoyed exploring the new areas and progressing my ranch. I'm just hoping that the early access phase gives this game the push in the right direction it deserves by trying out new ideas to make a game that I consider a classic even better. And as we go head to head in the final round, we are left with two amazing titles, Satisfactory and Subnautica. Both titles really impressed me during the production of this episode, and for similar reasons. With incredibly unique mechanics and styles of gameplay, these two titles really took a beloved game genre and made it their own. They also mastered the most difficult feat in game design, which is teaching the player to play the game by having them go out into the world and learn for themselves, rather than hold your hand by putting you through an obnoxious number of tutorials, slowing the pace of the experience. With that being said, the gold goes to Satisfactory. Subnautica put up a great fight with its bold approach to world building and take on the survival genre. Having the setting be set in an underwater world filled with vibrant coral reefs and bioluminescent sea life is like nothing I've ever seen before. And as beautiful as the game is, it also managed to scare the living hell out of me with its crazy looking alien sea monsters and dark plot as you find out what happened to your fellow crew members via audio logs. My fear of the abyss didn't help either. But when I played Satisfactory, I couldn't get over the amount of dopamine I received when a crazy ensemble of machinery that I've been working on for over 3 hours powered up and worked. Whether it was professionally optimized or looked like it was designed by a cracked out carny worker, it was always so cool to go up into my watchtower and see it all in action. I'll admit, when it comes to the survival aspect of gameplay, it doesn't even come close to Subnautica, as the only real threat is fall damage and an occasional wild animal that can bite you. However, during this voice recording, the game did release a new update that seems to be focusing on new threats to the player in Update 6, so maybe the survival aspect has improved. But the worlds you can explore and the adventures you have finding the perfect spot to build your factory to expand your capitalist abomination was just too addicting, and just barely put it over Subnautica. And honestly, I couldn't ask for a better top 2 for the first episode of my new show. Thank you all so much for watching the first episode of Game Bracket, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!
Hello, and thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end. This was Game Bracket, the first of many to come. It basically is a change of formula of my previous videos, which is, just game reviews, but this allows me to be more comfortable with talking about previously released games by putting them into a new setting of a head-to-head style video. Like, we all know that these are great games, but what about them makes them so great? And how do they compare to other great titles that are already released? So it was basically just a huge experiment to me, and honestly I'm really happy with how it turned out. Especially script-wise, editing-wise, and just overall idea, and I hope I can continue to grow and expand upon this idea and even interact with you guys by putting up polls for themes. Like, maybe we'll do 4 Nintendo games, or maybe we'll do 4 roguelites, or 4, I don't know, garden simulators, whatever. It literally, like, any theme that involves video games, we can do something with this. And if you guys are willing to hop on board with me, then I would love to bring you guys along and let your influence impact future episodes of Game Bracket. But other than that, content has been slow here, but it has been going quite well over on my other projects like Crabcast, my podcast. It is now on Spotify, and videos have been uploaded there weekly, either in the form of just regular podcasts or just fun little videos that we do, like how we all just experimented on different types of alcohol. And Life of Ender has even received some new videos with events I've been to, collaborations I've been a part of, and just new things all around. But I would like for the video pacage on GalicEnder to increase. I'm doing my best. And even now, it's probably going to be a little bit till the next video comes out because I'm moving and I got to get ready for that. But I will do my best to have something out soon. I already have more ideas and I can't wait to show you all the things I've been working on and will continue to work on and improve the more I go down this path of content creation, studio work, and just working with other people that I interact with in my life. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you guys again in the next video. Bye!